Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Anderson, and this is my good friend and guest, Susan Dones.
Hello.
And if you don't know who Susan is, she is one of the whistleblowers, one of the original whistleblowers from NXIVM. So she left in 2009, and it wasn't until almost 2 decades, in 2017, that NXIVM burned to the ground. She was sued by NXIVM. They filed over 200 fake claims against her, and she won their bogus lawsuit against her. She represented herself against 7 of their lawyers. She has lots of battle scars from being in the NXIVM Cult and the battle to take them down after leaving. And we've become really good friends. We meet every couple of weeks and have like a cult recovery support, I don't know, kind of group that we talk about. And so we're here. Welcome, everyone. And thank you so much, Susan, for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. Hi, everyone.
I'll read the comments. Benjamin says, woohoo, love the last one. And Charlene is here, Marie, Bindle, Bell, and RB, and Leslie. And thank you so much for being here. So we're going to do this in a few parts. And this is cults and pyramid schemes. And Susan, you can just start. Like, this is for you. I don't want to talk that much. I want you to share your expertise and everything.
Oh my gosh. Give me a break. I don't want to do this by myself. You're the MLM expert, so.
Yeah, right.
Although for those that don't know it, NXIVM was quite the MLM. You know, actually they were quite the pyramid scheme. So, because there was money to be made, but not a lot of people made money in NXIVM. It all floated to the top like all pyramid schemes do. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but maybe the next time we'll talk about how NXIVM was quite the pyramid scheme, along with quite the RICO organization. So I don't know how many of you out there know how NXIVM was a RICO organization. So if you don't know about that, there's plenty of stuff out there. I've done quite a few podcasts, and my story's out there. So if you don't know about that, then gosh, where you been?
That's right.
So but yeah, it's out there. And so we'll maybe talk more about that next time, and unless some questions come in that we can that'll answer. So but anyways, yeah, thanks for joining us. I put together a little slide presentation, so hopefully we won't bore you too much about that, but I'll put it up, I'll share stuff, and then we'll put it down, and Julie and I will talk about that. So gosh, how long have we known each other? Over a year now, right?
I think so. It's so wild. It's just, it's so weird to me, like how we've connected and like we have a friendship. Because when I left multi-level marketing, I was trying to, deprogram, and then I watched The Vow. And I think when I saw you on there, and I think it might have been episode 5, I should have looked this up, in one of our previous interviews, collabs, I mentioned it. So I'm going to use that. But I remember I'm like, oh my God, this woman, she came out, she was trying to warn everybody. And I was it really felt like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of us in multi-level marketing, we saw The Vow, and it was kind of like a blueprint for speaking out against multi-level marketing, And so then when I connected with you, I'm like, this is just so surreal. Like, it's just so weird being in a cult, and it's so weird being an MLM. And then, so yeah, I'm like, I'm just kind of tripping all over my words right now.
No, that's okay. I think the first thing I saw on your Instagram page was something about kick-ass coffee or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I reached out to you, and I'm like, man, where do you get that? I need some of that. And then I started watching your Instagram page, and I reached out to you, and I said, I think we need to meet. So we did a Zoom meeting, and God, we just talked for hours and stuff, because we have so much in common, and our sense of humor is very similar and stuff. So I've really enjoyed our chats and stuff like that. So. But yeah, I think Mark put that anti-MLMers are highly important, and I believe that's true. It takes a village, and to work this side of the battle, And so, there wasn't one person that took down NXIVM. It really took a village of people to take down NXIVM. And that's what it does, is it takes a village to, to educate people and that kind of stuff. And so I left in 2009, and there weren't any arrests until 2017 that's when things exploded around DOS, and people think NXIVM was a sex cult. And gosh, I didn't, get any sex in NXIVM, that kind of that kind of thing. It was just a small subgroup of NXIVM, and that didn't start until much later, and they were committing lots of crimes. When I found about the money laundering and the cash from Mexico is when I said, I'm not stepping into that stuff, because I don't want to be in a criminal organization, that kind of thing. And so and that's when a lot of people wake up. They find that things are going on that they don't want to be a part of, and that's when that's the thing that wakes them up. And they decide that they don't want to be a part of that organization and leave. And then some people just leave quietly and move on with their life, which is okay. And then other people go like, wow, I need to educate other people about what I found out about and stuff. And that's why they leave. And so, and that's why we move on. But so what I wanted to do is just let's see.
I wanted to say too, like
Oh, yeah.
Susan, you've been such a big help to me, because like leaving multi-level marketing, speaking out, I'm one of the people I felt like I had to speak out. But I also want to create safe spaces on social media to have other survivors, victims speak out too, feel safe too, knowing that, people that are still brainwashed in these commercial cults, they're going to come in and try to harass, they did harass me and tried to harass other people. And also at the same time, I want to help move on from this, because there's a place for the moral outrage of seeing all this egregious behavior in multi-level marketing. And then there's healing from this. What do we do? And that's why I love talking with Susan, because she's been really helpful to me and helping me just, talk through things and figure out what I want to do. And you leave these high control groups, and it really messes with your mind and trying to find out what I want to do. And so that's why I think, having someone who was in NXIVM, who spoke out, and who has so much, just has so much experience and insight. And I'm so stoked about this PowerPoint presentation. You guys are going to love this. Susan did not come to play. This is good. You're not going to be bored. This is good.
Yeah, and I'm not going to just do death by PowerPoint, hopefully. So I'll put it up, and then I'll take it down, and then we can discuss that. And if you guys have comments about it, please join in regards to your comments, because you guys have a lot of experience yourselves in regards to that. So, I definitely want you to, let's see if I do this on Zoom all the time. So let's see, slides. Oh, what do you mean I don't have no slides? I definitely have slides. Can you guys see that? Julie, you have to let me know if you can see that.
I don't see anything yet.
Okay.
There might be something like share screen or something.
Yeah, I think I hit that, but let me go back in. Okay, from your computer. Okay, video. You currently have PowerPoint. Okay, upload file. I have to upload the file.
We've got a good comment in here
desktop.
Now. Sharon says Randy Schroeder actually admitted that the problems with launching Transact was due to the anti-MLM movement. So yes, you are having an effect. Takes a village. Like Susan said, every comment, every person watching, every person that likes a video, every anti-MLM creator, we're all in this together. So good.
Okay, let me just find these. I know that they're on my desktop. I put them there so I could quickly get to them. Oh, here we are. Okay, they're uploading right now.
All right.
So we'll just do the Jeopardy thing. Processing.
Oh, here it is. I see it.
Okay.
Add to stage. All right. Would you like it like this,
Okay, so
Susan, or like this?
yeah,
The
is
big
that
one?
okay? Well, I
How
think
does?
everybody can see that
Yeah.
right there. So
Okay.
it just says, you know, the topic of the thing here. So we're going to move to the second slide. So, you know, what's a pyramid scheme in simple terms? It's, you know, it's a fraudulent system of making money based on recruiting an ever increasing number of investors or members or however you want to call it. So the initial promoter, recruiter, investor, who in turn recruits more investors and so on. So Bernie Madoff is probably, I know in America, he's the most well-known person in a Ponzi scheme. So 150, he got 150 years and over $170 billion for a Ponzi scheme. But I think the little picture is pretty much symbolized for what happens in network marketing or things like that. And it's not that similar in a cult because you have the leader or leaders in the top, and then they bring in people and they bring in people and they bring in people. And that's really what's, you know, kind of important in, you know, creating a cult-like organization is you want to bring in members, that kind of thing. And so, you know, a lot of people will say MLMs are pyramid schemes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how that happens, you know, in regards to that. And then what's the difference between a pyramid scheme, MLM, that kind of thing. So the main difference between a multi-level marketing and a pyramid scheme is that an MLM focuses on selling a legitimate product or service, whereas a pyramid scheme is focused on recruiting new members, and selling a promise of a huge return on investment. But is it, you know, because a lot of times really what you do is you sign up members and you sell a little package, you know, of a product in that package when you sign up a member. But the thing is that you want to bring in more people, because the more people you have in your downline, then the more people that the upline in that membership make. So it's not like, you know, I sign up for an MLM and then I'm selling shampoo and makeup and pots and pans or whatever out of my garage, you know, and I'm out looking for people that want to buy my products. You know, in most MLMs, your upline is pushing you to sell memberships so that you can get people to sell more products underneath you. And so it looks just like the slide I had over here, is that you're looking for people to sign up people who are looking to sign up people. And I know when I was in NXIVM, they kept saying, you know, we're looking for people of influence. And I kept saying, well, what is that? And really they were looking for people who had money, you know, that kind of thing. And then when they signed up the Brofman family, they knew they had their golden goose because the Brofmans had millions and millions of dollars in their trust fund, the Brofman sisters. So there's a question down here that said, I read that Bernie Madoff was so successful because he didn't offer outrageous returns on his investments. Well, I don't know about that, but he offered enough so that very wealthy people didn't question him, you know, in regards to that. And a lot of people lost a lot of money with him. And some of those people didn't get their money back because there wasn't a way to sell off enough of his goods to get their money back in regards to that. So, but he tried to take full responsibility, saying nobody knew about this but me. But when the FBI and the DOJ went in deeper and deeper and deeper, and one of his sons actually committed suicide over that, which is very sad in regards to that. And his wife wanted to stick by his side, but after he'd been in prison for a while, he stopped accepting her phone calls. He wanted her to just move on with her life. So what happens in a typical MLM is that pumps people up. And we all know this. If anybody's been in an MLM or a cult or any of that kind of thing, is that, you know, if it's a mom that signs up, is she believes that she gets to be a stay-at-home mom, but she works all the time building her business. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's really hooked into the system, yet she's losing money on her investment. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So she's people are spoon-fed stories of success by their upline by passing on, their stories, like, look at the check I just got, or look at the yacht that I have, or look at this big house that I got. And usually those are the 1%ers, or they're lying about what they made, those kinds of things. And then we're looking at virtual work that ends in no measurable results. So when I talk about that, it's like I spend hours and hours and hours working, but what happens is that at the end of the day, I don't have any measurable results. So like, I'm not getting a financial return on my investment, but I'm busy all the time, and I say I'm working my business, those kinds of things. I might sign up, a member here or a member there, or, that kind of thing, but I'm not really getting measurable results in that. And so instead of being a business owner, that business really owns me, that kind of thing. And so I go around and I tell people I have this small business that you can get into for $500, $1,000, $1,500, depending on whatever package that you're selling. But really that business owns me, because at the end of the month, I don't really have a sizable paycheck to show for the number of hours that I worked. And I don't know if you guys, I DJ weddings and stuff, and a popular song has been, Bruno Mars's song, I Want to Be a Millionaire. So bad. But what happens is I use what's called cognitive dissonance, is I hide the truth from myself. And so what happens is that, I have to justify, like, in a year, I'm going to be at this level in the company. And in 2 years, I'm going to be at this level. I'm going to be on the stage. I'm going to have this walk away residual income kind of thing. I do my project boards. I get into a coaching group, those kinds of things. I listen to the motivational books from, audio, or, those kinds of things. And so we're taught, actually, through different techniques, which we're going to cover, is to not follow the money. And we don't even follow our own. We don't take a look at, the number of hours that I'm working, the number of the amount of money that I'm putting out in regards to that versus the rate of return that I'm getting back and stuff like that. So we don't follow the truth either. So how much we spend to run this so-called business. And so these are some of the things that happen not only in MLMs, but they happen in high control groups. We call those cults. And that's why, a lot of people are looking at our MLMs cults now. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So according to the research by the FTC, a whopping 99% of those recruited lose money in these ventures. That means that 1% turn a profit in the long term. Only 1%. But yet people don't tell you that. So, it's like, if people knew that, would they really sign up for that? And it's like, when I left NXIVM and I realized I had been not only in a cult, but in a dangerous cult, and in a cult that was running highly criminal federal offense organizations, when I left, I was in a state of shock. And I said, gosh, like, how the heck did I get into this? And I was in that state of numbness for quite a long time, and I went to therapy, and, I'm being told by people who'd left before me that I was going to get sued, which was another shock on top of that. And, we all know, if we've been in a controlling environment like that, that had we known information ahead of time, we would have ran like hell day one, kind of thing. And it's kind of like we recapitulate and we go back and like, oh my God, I didn't pay attention to that. And oh my God, I didn't pay attention to that. And oh my God, it was right there staring me in the face, and I didn't pay attention to that. And it's because we're bamboozled by these people who we thought we could trust and would tell us the truth. In the FTC puts it out there, the Federal Trade Commission puts it out there. It's like, hello, you have to be the 1% to even make any money in these organizations, kind of thing. Like, if I would have walked into NXIVM and they said, hey, we're a cult and we're dangerous and we break the law, and we just want you to know that. before you pay your $6,000 to take the 16-day course, do you still want to take it? I would have ran to the forest and hid, it's like, I'm not giving you my credit card number. But no, they were all in business suits, and it was a 16-day course. That's all they had, but that's not how they sold it. And that's probably not how they sold whatever you bought from them. And then an article in manifestingmoney.com found that that most people were making less than 70 cents an hour before deducting business costs in their MLMs. 70 cents an hour. It's like, if they would have said, "Hey, yeah, buy this package and join our business, and you're gonna have walkaway residual income, and you're gonna bring your husband home from his job on 70 cents an hour," you would have said, "Yeah, blow me." You know, it, I can't do that. You know, so the scheme, those at the bottom are not guaranteed. So people say, well, how's this, oh, well, how's that different than a business? Businesses are built on a pyramid strategy. So those at the bottom are not guaranteed to make any money in these MLM companies. So in a company looks like an MLM, but everybody walks away with a paycheck on payday. So an MLM, the people at the top are making the 1%, they're making the money because the money funnels up. And in a business, the people at the top are going to make more money. It's just the way it is. They either have more education, they knew it's a family business, maybe they know somebody, scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing. And the people at the bottom, maybe they're entry-level workers, that kind of thing. Maybe they don't have as much education, that kind of thing. Maybe they can come in at an entry-level worker and work their way up the pyramid and make more money down the road. But at the end of the pay period, they are going to walk out with an agreed upon paycheck. In an MLM, that is not the truth. And that's why it looks different. So when somebody says, well, how is it different than a business? Says it's a pyramid scheme too. That's your answer. Is at the end of the pay period, I'm going to walk out with an agreed upon paycheck. MLMs, it's the 1% that make the money. So cults and MLMs manipulate, recruit, and maintain members the same way cults do. And if you think that's harsh, it's the truth. So recruiters can be very convincing. They use deception in all forms by withholding vital information. People don't know how to ask. So you don't know how to ask. Well, and if you ask it, they just blow smoke up your panties, okay? They distort information and use outright lying to ensure people who have not learned about cult-like mind control techniques. So they can't really call it cult-like mind controls if MLMs are using them, can we? So, the thing is that they use the same thing. And a lot of it is neurolinguistic programming. And salespeople learn that. And so people have always asked me, well, is neurolinguistics programming a bad thing? Not necessarily. It's like any kind of therapeutic techniques is not necessarily bad unless you're using it to manipulate people to get what you want from them. So, I have a master's degree in psychology. I've been doing therapy since the late 80s, and so therapy is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're using it to manipulate people, then you're a bad person. So it's kind of like I use the analogy of the knife in a hand of a surgeon can be very healing. The knife in a hand of a murderer is a bad thing. The knife is no different. It's what you do to it that makes it a bad thing. So MLMs adopt cult techniques. Well, I don't know if they're necessarily cult techniques, but cults use them too. So to understand how MLMs recruit and maintain participants requires examining them as cults. So most MLMs use techniques to recruit financial manipulation, and the promise of large profits. All cults, like all cults, they employ thought control, magical thinking, thought stopping, and self-blaming. So failures are blame directing on the consultant and the lack of hard work or competence. So has anybody experienced any of this in their MLMs that want to say, yeah, me too? Like I experienced that. So I haven't been paying attention to the comments.
We
There's a
can
woman.
take some. Would you like to take some comments and some questions, Susan?
Yeah, let's take some
Okay.
comments and some questions so we're not.
This is Jojo. Hello, said hello. Julie, newish sub here. Marie says, as a survivor of a high control group in the political arena, I see so many parallels between my experience and what I'm hearing from people who left MLMs.
Absolutely. Yeah, politicians use this all the time. If you think that I have found very few. Somebody wrote me from my website, because there's a little thing where you can write me a question, and somebody said, oh gosh, they were asking me about, because like I get this creep, I call it creep gaydar, and not gaydar, but creep. Like I had this radar kind of thing about creepy people, and I got that with Keith. Like when I met him, he was just kind of creepy, and he repelled me. And they asked me about how I feel about political figures. And I said, oh, I try not to get involved in political stuff because you end up fighting with people. If if they like one politician and you don't like that politician, it's just like you argue all the time. So I try not to get caught up in politics, but like I hate this time of year where it's, like everything's a TV ad and I get spammed all the time with, vote for me, blah, blah, send me money kind of stuff. I'm just, but politics is full of these kinds of techniques. Like, like you find somebody really promising and you're excited about them. And then if they get in office, they usually don't do what they say they're going to do when they're in office. I haven't found that very often, especially the higher they get in the political arena kind of thing. Like, I'm gonna work on blah blah blah, and they get in office and like, what happened to blah blah blah? You said you were going to help take care of that kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, they use this and stuff.
Natasha is so happy, so glad to see Susan back.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you. Somebody said
Alex says people at the top of people at the top of actual businesses incur more risk and have more responsibility, and that's not true for MLM.
Right. Yeah. So somebody said here, as an Amway orphan, I experienced most of these just being involved through. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, Amway's been around a long time. And when they went to the this is interesting. I don't know if you guys know this, but when Amway was examined is it a pyramid scheme or is it legit? The FTC was only one vote difference of when they voted. Is it a pyramid scheme or is it something legit? So if it would have gone one way or the other, like, no, it's a pyramid scheme, only one vote was different. And that's all it took to make it a pyramid scheme or not. So yeah, my parents were in Amway too. They do sell some great pots and pans, though. I still have them. They were my mom's. So, but anyways.
Sam says there's a huge cult MLM crossover with the bite model.
Yeah, Steve Hossens, yeah.
And Sharon says, is Amway the first MLM?
That I don't know if they were the first, but they were the first big one. And then when they switched over from Amway to the other name that they did to kind of hide the fact that they were Amway, it was not Quickstar, but something else. They actually got fined. I sent you that. Did you see the link I sent you last night?
Yeah.
They actually got fined something like $156 million, because not because they were found to be a scam, but because they were highly pressuring their members to sign up memberships and stuff. So, and that was, gosh, when was that? And it was just fairly recent.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look up my notes.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't.
But they got fined $156 million. It was fairly recently, like in the 90s or something like that.
Yeah, it was on. I know it's on Pyramid Scheme Alert, like Robert
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick's site there.
Yeah. So yeah, and they used to they had a system outside of their system where big leadership teams were, you know, they would put on conferences, you know, kind of thing, and they would sell. The leaders would make money on selling like tapes and motivational tapes and books and stuff like that. So when people would go to pick up their products from their you know, upline, that kind of thing, they would sell motivational tapes and books, and you were required, if you wanted to build a business, you were required to buy the tapes from the regional you know meetings that took place like every other week, or yeah, somebody put it here that yeah, somebody's sibling got sucked into it. They have the name of it right, this one here. That was the name that Amway had switched over to, got sucked in. So yeah, they would sell these motivational tapes and stuff. So like Julie, you got involved in this coaching group.
Yeah, rank makers. Yeah,
rank makers. So Amway started doing this thing where they would put on these big seminars, and if you wanted to be a business builder, you were manipulated into joining these subgroups of Amway distributors. And you know, like if you weren't reading Rich and Grow Think, then you weren't really willing to get rich in your business, and all these other books and stuff like that. And so they would buy the books in large quantities and then sell them to their memberships at retail, you know, so all the distributors, the high ranking distributors, were making money off of that, and then selling you the tapes, you know, that they would just zip copies of, you know. So if you went to the monthly whatever hoorah meetings, you know, and Bill and Betty, you know, Emeralds would get up on the stage and speak, you know, kind of thing, then you were required to buy these standing orders of these tapes, you know, for like $6, and it cost them nothing to produce, you know, kind of thing. And then it was just like these motivational things, and they were making thousands of dollars a month off of these motivational tapes, kind of thing. And so yeah, I mean, so they weren't just making money off of their whatever rank they were in Amway, they were making thousands of dollars off of these promotional hoorah kind of like things. And so when we get back into the tapes, I'll show you, or into the slide presentation, they use all these methods of pressuring their downlines into, you know, joining these ways of like, well, if you're not working hard enough, you're not going to make any money, kind of thing. So
there's one comment here I think is important. Marie says, it's scary how hard it is to see from the inside that you're in a cult, and hard to realize that you have helped to harm people in the system by not realizing it in time.
yeah, well, you know, the thing in regards to that, Marie, and everybody else's, is that we wake up when we wake up, you know, and that's the thing, you know. It's like I left in 2009, and I mean, I tried to warn everybody about Keith Raniere and Nancy Salzman, and they labeled me as a suppressive, and I don't know what else they said about me. You know, they tried to arrest me. They tried to get me criminally charged, saying that I tried to extort money from them by asking for money that was owed to me. like, hey, can I get my commission check, that you owe me and stuff. And then money for what my center was worth, because I had a center, in the Seattle area. And so they call that extortion. So the first thing they try to do is get criminal charges pressed against me for extortion. you know, and it scared me. And there were 9 of us they tried to file criminal charges against because we all left together. And so that didn't work. So then they filed civil charges against me, and I actually had to go to court. And it took me my 9 months to work through that lawsuit. And I did win that lawsuit, but it took 9 months of my life, kind of thing. And so I'm a real advocate for people who are being sued. And so but I tried to warn other people, but what they did is they collectively worked together as a cult to make me a bad person and that I'm just a liar. And so a lot of people didn't want to listen to me. So when the cult blew up, then I had credibility. And so what happened is that then people came to me and said, "Oh gosh, I should have listened to you when you left." And it's kind of like, well, the horse left the barn, the horse left the barn years ago, but the important thing is that people then left, and so my job was then at that point was to be gracious with them and be open to taking them in and saying, yeah, this really bad thing happened. But unfortunately, in that time from 2009 to 2017, people had been so sucked in and so believed in Keith and Nancy that they had committed crimes. And some of those people got arrested, and some of those people are doing jail time. And that's the unfortunate thing. And some of those people got questioned by the DOJ and had to either work with the DOJ or get arrested and do jail time. And so, I mean, we wake up when we wake up, and there are consequences to stepping over the line from, hey, I'm just a participant in this thing, into where I'm going to step over and, do criminal activity, kind of thing. And so, but unfortunately, that's what mind control can do to some people is that they forget who they were before they, got so deeply involved. And so the thing is that, yeah, I had a lot of people come in and came through my center. But the thing is, what I did was I tried to protect them for what the bad shit that was going on in New York, and I just kept the training as the training. And this is another topic that comes up is that the training wasn't bad. We come back to the knife of the surgeon kind of thing. The training was actually pretty good. But what made the training bad was the manipulation that took place. And so, and a lot of times people say, well, it wasn't that bad because, I got some really good stuff out of it, and the thing is that if who's doing the training is poisoning the shit out of people and taking advantage of it, that needs to be cut out. And so I would never go back and do that training. One, the DOJ owns NXIVM's curriculum, right? So the thing is that, and it took me years to be able to even to say, am I healthy enough as a person to counsel somebody, even though I had a master's degree, and stuff like that? Do I trust myself? Am I healthy enough to be able to hang up my shingle again, even though I had that shingle years before I ever stepped a foot into NXIVM, and not let my unhealed self be able to intermesh with somebody else, that kind of thing. And so, I had to be able to do that. And so, when I'm working with victims who have left, these kind of situations, I don't charge. And some people have an issue with that, oh, you don't have to give your stuff away. And one of my friends jumped all over my ass a couple of months ago and said, I don't believe in giving back, kind of thing. Well, that's her stuff, this kind of thing. But I mean, it's just a part of my healing process in regards to that. So, did I do harm? I think I I don't know. I've never had anybody come up and say, "Oh, you harmed me," kind of thing, because I did try to protect people from what was going on in Albany. And when I did find out, I got out and I pulled as many people out with me as I could in regards to that. And I didn't do any of the shit that people did. I didn't enroll anybody into sleeping with Keith or getting branded or any of that kind of stuff. That stuff happened long after I left. So, but yeah, I mean, the mere fact that I enrolled people in, did they get harmed? I don't know. I haven't had anybody come back and say that, but yeah. Did I feel guilty? I felt more guilty about the fact that I couldn't get all of my friends out. Some people stayed in and said, F you, you're the bad person for leaving, and you're the bad person for trying to say bad things about Keith and Nancy and NXIVM, that kind of thing. And I never left the battlefield of trying to take them down until they were taken down. And again, like not everybody has to do that. It's not everybody's lot. So does anybody else have anything to say before we move on to the next slide?
There's some great conversations going on in the chat here. So thank you so much for everyone for talking with each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really good.
I don't want to leave anybody out. So that
Leslie says this is fascinating information. Squirrel on Steroids says Susan is amazing. I watched all the videos on YouTube I was able to find. Thank you, Julie, for inviting Susan. We'll bring up Alice says, hey ladies. Hello, Alice. And there is an actual, so this is Jen and Two Cats says, what is happening to Marco is beyond messed up. So this is another anti-MLM creator. He's an excellent YouTube creator and an advocate. Always Marco here on YouTube. He's made some incredible videos. Primerica, he made a video on Primerica, and Primerica hired private investigators to go after his family. He's left Canada.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he left, and he was like, he won't tell anybody where he is. He gives hints and stuff, but that's because they were going to his parents, like his dad's house. They were going tracking down his family. It was just like typical cult shit, all because he made a video for Primerica. So this is, and he's got a couple of lawsuits. Primerica was suing him as soon as he got his video out. It was ratcheting up to 1 million views. As soon as it was banned, or he had to remove it because now he's in this lawsuit, I was one of the creators that reacted to it. So there was some other creators that just uploaded his video straight up, but then I did kind of a watch party, and I linked the video to, if they don't want to see me reacting to it, they could just watch the video. But it's kind of what I was doing to help support him. But he also has, if you want to support Marco, he has great live streams, and I'm one of his supporters. He has Patreon and that. So I definitely suggest going to give him your support, because he's got some lawsuits he's dealing with right now.
Yeah. It's really sad when a company feels so threatened by a video.
One YouTuber, one person. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I worked with a friend of yours, and I don't know if she's on here or not, but I worked with a friend of yours who's being sued right now. And the thing with being sued is that, I pretty much became, I'm not saying that I don't want this to sound cocky, because you never know, but when I beat NXIVM, they had 7 highly paid attorneys that came after me. NXIVM did. And I represented myself in court, and I had some help. I had a couple of attorneys that helped advise me on a couple of things that I just didn't know. But I took an online course called How to Win in Court. And then I went to the University of Washington, and I took their private investigator course. which was a 9-month certificate to become a private investigator in the state of Washington. And I felt like I needed that to learn how to investigate certain things. And I passed the course, and it could have got my license, but it wasn't a high priority for me at the time. And I remember standing in front of the judge. My judge's name was Judge Lynch. What a name for a judge, the lynching judge. You know. And I remember standing in front of him the first day. And judges hate pro se attorneys because, we just don't know a lot about the law and stuff. And he kind of spoke very sternly to me. And he said, these are very serious charges, because they had over 200 claims against me at the time. And he said, they had this high priced falutin attorney charged $900 an hour from LA, He said, these are very serious charges against you, Ms. Stones, and I would highly recommend you get an attorney. But I was bankrupt, I had no money. And at the time, the housing market had crashed, so my house is like underwater, and stuff. And I don't have a penny to my name. And I called around for a long time trying to find a pro bono attorney, and nobody, they just Googled NXIVM. And at the time, they got these trust fund babies that just have millions of dollars, and they sued anybody who left, and spoke out. And so they Googled NXIVM. They're like, oh, we're going to need a $30,000 retainer. It's like, I didn't have $3,000. I didn't have $300. And I'm washing dishes for my sister who has a catering company, to be able to buy gas money, and it took everything in me to not just break out in tears, and I'm like, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I've tried to find a pro bono attorney. And I said, these guys are a dangerous cult, Your Honor. And I said, everything they've said about me is a lie, and I said, it'll take me a while, but I will prove to you that they've lied about everything. And I will do my best to be respectful in your court. I said, but they want a minimum of $25,000 retainer, and I just don't have that. I said, and they'll blow through that in a month, because that's what they do. They're just here to harass me. And they want me to say that I lied about everything I said about them. And it's just not the truth. I said, their leader is sleeping with students and borrowing millions of dollars from students they can't pay back. And they're just here to harass me. And so when MLMs and cults and stuff like that file lawsuits and harass people, like hiring PIs and like I got followed, and I had people parked across the street in the church parking lot all the time, and I'd get in my vehicle and they would just follow me, shit like that. And you're wondering, like, you're on the phone and you're talking to somebody and you're wondering if they got their little thing out listening to your conversations and shit like that. And if they've hacked into your computers and they're watching your emails and shit like that. It's stressful as hell, that kind of stuff. And our house got broken into once, and the only thing they took were our Kindles and our computers. Well, who does that? If a thief's going to come in, like I had a $350 little Bose speaker sitting right next to my computer. They didn't take that, So when they do that, it's because they don't want other people to know the truth about them, and so the thing is that when we hire attorneys to try to protect us, it costs us, we can go bankrupt doing that. And so one of the things that I've wanted to do is teach people how to represent themselves in court, because it's all lies. And the thing is we can expose more in a court of law about what they're really doing. And then what we have to do is reach out and get the press to pick up the stories. Because when I started representing myself, all these newspapers wanted to pick, like, what is this little cowgirl in Puyallup, Washington, doing, representing herself against this, what seemed like a prominent business company in Albany, New York, you know? And I told them everything, you know, like, they said I did this, and well, really what they're doing is this, you know? And so by the time I left court, and the judge wrote a 27-page decision and reamed them for what they did to me, you know? And that's unheard of, that in a civil case like that, that a judge would write a 27-page decision. And so really what I did was I made myself unsuable, because if somebody else sues me, I can represent myself in court, and it makes it, you know, like, why would you sue her? It just looks like harassment. You know, that kind of thing. So over one video, they do all this shit to his family, and now he
Yes.
has multiple lawsuits,
Yes.
you know, over a video. It's just like, in like, Keith was smart enough to not sue people over defamation, because the thing is that, you know, you open up a can of worms when you sue over somebody over defamation, because the thing is that you have to prove you're not that character that people are saying you are. You know, he was quite the character, and he was doing all kinds of shit, you know, so that whenever somebody says, oh, they're suing me over defamation, I'm like, really? Okay. You know, we can do a lot with this, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah. So what else do we have up over here?
We've got lots. Take your pick and I'll pull it up on the screen.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time keeping up. So sorry. It's all that money spent on high-priced lawyers. So glad the judge saw that. Yeah, that was. Yeah. So yeah, they spent $500,000 at suing me, but that was nothing, because the Brofmans had millions. You know, that's like lunch money for them. So yeah, it's like, but yeah, I mean, that was a good thing. So.
Differently Normal says, I'd have paid good money to see the judge's face when you said the words, they are a dangerous cult.
Yeah, I was too scared to look at him that day. But yeah, oh, the stories that came out of that court case, oh my God, it makes me laugh. Yeah. So yeah, oh my God, there were days when I was in that court case, I just didn't care if I woke up the next day. It's just like, but I wasn't gonna, you know. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't suicidal, but it was just like, it was so exhausting. But yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. So when I hear people are being sued, it just, you know, drives me crazy, because it's like, you know, but that's how they try to stop us, you know.
Yeah.
But look how long I mean, Leah Remini, guy, I just have so much, you know, respect for her. She's suing Scientology now, you know, because they do all kinds of shit like that. Yeah, somebody here says your experience would make a good movie. Well, hopefully someday it'll make a good book, you know. And I don't want to write a book about me. I just want to write a book about some of my experiences, but then write, you know, like, why this is just a good lesson. And like, we're going to get into some healing stuff here towards the end. And then each time I want to talk about, like, you know, how do you heal from this shit, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, oh my God, the stories that I can tell you about leaving, it was a horror show. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a very dangerous cult. Keith is a horribly dangerous man, and his sidekick, Nancy Salzman. So she's getting out in April, out of, well, she's not in prison now. She's in a halfway house, and she gets released in April. Oh my God, can't believe it. But anyways, yeah. So all of our stories put together, and that's one of the things that I want to do if I write a book, is I want it not to just be my story, but reach out to other people, like, you know, like, what's your story? Because they're all really similar. I mean, everybody has a horrible story. So should we get back to the slides?
Sure.
Okay, so we did this. So what is thought reform? So some people call it brainwashing. So these are techniques that are used to change a way you think, act, and feel. So as parents, we use this on our kids, because we have to. I mean, if we're going to raise kids from being wild little creatures that do whatever they want, potty training is a way of thought reform. Like you can't wear diapers your whole life, although if we live long enough, we come into the world with them and we leave the world with them. So churches use it, cults use it, MLMs use it. But the thing with thought reform is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? So that's where you have to draw the line in regards to thought reform, in regards to that. So one way that's used in a negative way is gaslighting. So we've probably have heard that word. So psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, and causes the victim to question the validity of their thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically lead to confusion, loss of confidence and self-esteem, and uncertainty of one's emotional and mental stability, of a dependency on the predator or predators. So when we get down to gaslighting, what's harder about that, I mean, this happens a lot of times in abusive relationships. The predator will gaslight the other person in the relationship. When we get into a larger organization, when you have several people gaslighting the same person, this becomes more difficult in regards to that, because then when you have group gaslighting taking place, and so you can see how this would take place in an MLM or a coaching group or in a cult-like organization, because they gaslight the person in the same way. Because what they'll do is they'll like, I became a problem person in NXIVM because I started to ask questions. Well, like, why do you teach this but do this? Like, why is Keith sleeping with students? Like, well, you shouldn't even be asking that question. It's none of your business. Well, yeah, it is, because it's unethical. Like, why is Keith borrowing? Why are you guys borrowing large amounts of money from students that you can't pay back? Those kinds of things. And so then what would happen is that I call it the wolf pack would come after me. It would be Nancy, it would be Nancy's daughter, it would be somebody else on the executive board would start to come after me, and they would start to gaslight me about, like, why am I asking these questions? It's my ethical breach, it's my limitations, those kinds of things. And they would start to gaslight me in regards to, why are you asking this? It can happen in an MLM, like, you're not trying hard enough, you're not being financially successful because you just don't have the motivation, that kind of thing. If you just did more, more posts on Instagram, those kinds of things. You're not cold calling enough people, those kinds of things. Those are forms of gaslighting. It starts to make you like, well, maybe, maybe I just don't have a successful sell mentality, those kinds of things. And you really start to question yourself, that kind of stuff. So that's gaslighting. So coercive control. So you're probably familiar with forms of domestic violence, such as physical and verbal abuse. So a more subtle type of abuse behavior. So a more subtle type of abusive behavior and is equally harmful as coercive control. So this is a strategic form of ongoing oppression in terrorism used to instill fear. So the abuser will use tactics such as limiting access to money or monitoring all communications as a controlling effort. So it doesn't just have to be communications and monitoring, that kind of stuff. They can find all different ways in order to control you. So one of the ways that they did this in NXIVM is they had this thing called an ethical breach. And they never really could define it, what an ethical breach was. Is they would say that it was something that you did to breach your ethics. And it was up to you to find out what that was. They couldn't say, well, your ethical breach is blah, blah, blah. It'd be like, oh, well, you need to figure that out. And it was never, and then you had to figure out ways to heal your ethical breach. But no matter what you tried, you could never heal your ethical breach. Like I always had an ethical breach against Keith Raniere. And it was never, I could never define it well enough. And it was never healable and all that kind of stuff. That is a way of coercively controlling you, that kind of thing. So this form of abuse is illegal in some countries, including the United Kingdom, since 2015. It's not considered illegal in the United States unless a crime has been committed, but it's still not even that way. I mean, there are people that got arrested in the NXIVM case where there was horrible abuse and they still got arrested. And like Nancy Salzman's daughter, Lauren, got involved in NXIVM right out of college. I mean, she went to Europe for the summer, and then when she came back, she immediately got involved in that. And she committed horrible crimes and horrible acts of abuse. Well, her mother was smart. Nancy Salzman got her involved in therapy, that kind of stuff. And then she had a very smart lawyer who got her to switch her life up, got her involved in dog grooming and that kind of stuff. Lauren ended up getting 5 years probation, no prison time. Lauren was horrible abuser of all kinds of people, made tons of money in NXIVM based on the position of her job, which she wasn't really qualified to have, based on, but she got it because, top of the pyramid, she knew people. And plus she was sleeping with Keith Raniere from a very young age, right? And then you take somebody like Claire Brofman, who was horribly abused in, coercively controlled in a lot of different ways, you know, but she was horribly abused by Nancy Salzman and Keith Raniere, to the point to where she would not denounce Keith Raniere. And she had bad lawyers, in my opinion, but she ended up getting next to Keith Raniere, who's in prison for 120 years. She got almost 7 years of prison time, but they didn't look at her coercive control situation. They didn't look at her abuse that took place, any of that kind of stuff, and committed less crimes than Lauren did, that kind of thing. And so if she would have had the right kind of attorney and got the right proper treatment before, from the time she was arrested till the time of sentencing was like 3.5 years, but because she didn't get the proper therapy and that kind of stuff, she ended up getting 84 months in prison, and Lauren got 5 years probation. So she got 84 months in prison and then has, I think, 3.5 years of probation when she gets out. So that's that's an amazing amount of time that she has to do, because her lawyers never helped her take a look at what physically and mentally happened to her while she was in NXIVM and stuff. So they didn't take a look at her abuse. And I really came to terms with this. I was really mad at her when she got sentenced because she paid for my lawsuit. It was her and her sister's money that paid for my lawsuit. But I was asked to do a documentary called Rich and Shameless. It was an 8-part documentary, and one of them was on Claire Brofman. And I really came to terms with what happened to her before and during that documentary, because they wanted the Brofman sisters really bad when they came into NXIVM, because they had, between the two of them, they had over $500 million worth of assets. And so when I stepped back and really took a look at what I saw happen between those two girls, I call them girls because they were pretty young when they came in. They were actually young women. But what I saw, take a look at what took place between them, they were probably the two most abused women, including Allison Mack, in Lauren Salzman. But they were the most abused because of the fact that they had money and influence. So But that's what cults do, and the court systems in the United States still don't look at that. Had this court case taken place like in a place like the UK, the laws would have come up in place in regards to coercive control. And I think she would have got a much better deal. So she's still in prison, and she's in one of the worst women's prisons in the United States. So hopefully someday she'll be able to get some help in regards to that. So forced labor. So this occurs when individuals are compelled against their will to provide work or service through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. So if I'm being lied to and I make 70 cents an hour in my MLM, is that forced labor? So that's a really good question, because when we take a look at forced labor, we think it's like sex trafficking and things like that. But what happened in the NXIVM case is Keith, under the RICO Act, was found guilty of forced labor. And so, maybe down the road that the DOJ will start looking at some of these MLMs, and it's possible, I'm not saying that it will happen, but it's possible that some of these MLMs will be brought up on RICO charges for forced labor, because there is a lot of coercion that takes place in MLMs, because they're lying to their distributors in regards to that. So
I want to bring up this comment here.
Yeah.
Grizzlies901 says, I just got out of Transact, also known as Finmore. It's a scam. Glad I'm out. Warning all my people to get out. Congratulations on getting out. And it's good for you. I saw that you had left some other comments on one of my other videos, and I just want to say thank you so much for having the courage to leave a comment. It's a big deal, and good for you for doing the right thing.
Yeah. It's it takes a lot to get waking up and admitting to ourselves is a big step, because then we have to go through all of that stuff that I was talking about, like how did I get myself into this? It was like, I thought I was smarter than this, that kind of stuff. That admitting to ourselves is a big step. And then we have to make the decision, like, am I going to pull other people out, which is healing in itself. The fact that we pull those other people out is healing in itself. And then we run the risk as, if I speak up, am I going to be one of those people that get sued? Right. That kind of thing. And so that is a big risk. So kudos to it. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
Let me just put that out there is that I'm not advocating that anybody gets on the battlefield. Yeah. It's fine if you don't, because the battlefield is not for everybody. I'm not doing raw. Oh, you got to get on the battlefield, because, then that's just coercively controlling you, that you have to do that, because you don't. It's a personal decision that everybody has to make, because you do risk, them coming after you, kind of thing. And I wouldn't want that for anybody. So,
and she's Grizzlies, you're getting a lot of support in the comments too. Just, it's nice for other people to see, if they come across the comments of various anti-MLM content, that when you do leave, whether you speak out or leave a comment or not, there is support. There's people get it, even if they've never been in a multi-level marketing company. As you can see in my videos and other people's videos, people are supporting you. So you're not alone.
Yeah. At some point you'll realize that was a really good decision, if you haven't already, and who hasn't made a mistake in their lives, that's just part of the journey, in life, is that, we try different things, and not all of them are going to work out for us, and we go like, well, that didn't work, next, kind of thing. So, yeah. So, all right. So let's bring that back up. So that's forced labor. And so, which is a really big thing that, we get into. So 10 warning signs that you're in a controlling environment. So one is absolute authoritarianism without accountability. So, the people above us are in authority. So zero tolerance for criticisms or questions. So a lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget. So a lot of times, we'll go to ask a question and they won't tolerate it, and they're the authority and they won't disclose stuff. So unreasonable fear about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies or perceptions, a belief that the former people in their lives are always wrong for leaving, and they will never, and there is never a legitimate reason for anybody to leave. So if these first 5 sound familiar, then you are probably in a controlling environment with a person or an organization. So I don't know about you, but all 5 of these fit me when I was in my organization.
All 5 fit me for Mon 8 and also rank makers. And I know, like, with people, what's blowing up with with Transact Card, it was this MLM, and it's now just suddenly changed its name to Finmore. A lot of people are looking at anti-MLM content from various multi-level marketing companies, but this one, it's got a lot of eyeballs on it now, and people are starting to wake up. So they're identifying with these signs too.
Right. So number 6 is abused people in their lives, documents of their abuse in others. People around them never feel like they can be good enough. A belief that they're always right, and they will go to any length to make you wrong. A belief that they are the leader or the boss, and they have they have the exclusive means of knowing the truth, or giving validation. So these are also really good signs of somebody who's a narcissistic personality. So, and usually people at the top of these kind of organizations are very narcissistic.
I just wanted to pull this up. Shout out to the crypto Ponzi scheme adventure. Sorry, Danny. I'm like, it's Derek. He's like, doing incredible work over on his YouTube channel. If you want to go check him out, he name and shame. He's in the New York Times. He's got an article written about him, and he's doing a lot of good work. So shout out.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so the next one is, let's see. So tools for recovery. One, I always recommend, if people can find a good therapist and can afford one. I know therapies, I don't know how it is in other places, but therapy is really hard to get into in the United States right now, especially since COVID, and people experience a lot of isolation. Therapy is really difficult to get into in the United States. Another thing is that what I found really to be beneficial is to tell your story, but what I found is that sometimes you have to tell your story to somebody who wasn't in the same organization you were in, because a lot of times when you do that, telling your story can be with the same organization that you were in. It's kind of becomes a kind of a pally kind of thing. Sometimes that can be really beneficial, but having somebody just sit down and listen to you tell what you went through can be very cathartic kind of thing. Rest is really important, because a lot of times when we come out of organizations where we did a lot of what I call forced labor, we're exhausted. Our bodies are exhausted. And rest is really a good thing for us to try to do, because we're just so used to being busy all the time. Some form of exercise is really good, but I put the easy does it, because we're used to overdoing anything that we've done. We just have that habit. And then I put HALT there, which is an acronym for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So stop and take care of yourself. So if you feel yourself angry, I know for me, if I'm hungry, I'm not at my best place. If I'm angry about something, I'm not at my best place. If I'm feeling lonely, I'm not in my best place. And if I'm tired, I'm not in my best place. So the thing is that if any of those things come up for me, then I need to stop and take care of myself. And so if any of that stuff comes up, then I just need to like back away and say, what's going on? Something's going on with me. Then I need to stop and take out. Hang out with people and have fun. Having fun was really hard for me to do when I first left because I just did not feel good about myself. It's like, how the hell did I get myself into this? And I just was used to being beat up. And so I just beat myself up. And then I call this the victim blame, self-blame participation model. And what I mean by that is that I was so used to being victimized that, I kind of fell into the trap of being a victim, like, oh my God, I'm a victim of all of this. And then I would get into blaming, like I blamed the other people for like, how the hell, why did you do this for me? And then when sometimes I'd fall into the trap of self-blame, like, oh gosh, like I've talked about that, like, how did I get myself into this? And then I'd fall into the self-blame model. And then what finally really helped me, and I don't mean this to be offensive to people, is I finally had to stop and take a look at how did I participate in this? Like, and I don't mean to get into like minimizing what happened to me, because things happened to me. But when I finally started to take a look at how did I participate in this, like what choices did I make along the way to stay as long as I did? I went into NXIVM in December of 2020. And then is that right? No, I went into NXIVM in December of 2000. And I left in April of 2009. So I was in for a long time. And so a lot of things happened in that 9 years. And a lot of red flags came up. Keith was sleeping with women who were students. Keith borrowed large amounts of money. I knew Nancy had an anger issue. She had a big ego. I knew a lot of they taught this, but they did this. And I asked a lot of questions along the way. And so a lot of things happen where red flags come up, And so Yanya Lawledge has a book out, and she talks about how we put these red flags up on a shelf behind us. And when the shelf gets too heavy, then the shelf crumbles and we go, I'm in a cult, kind of thing. And that's when it takes what it takes for us to wake up, kind of thing. And so, and then we go like, oh, how did I get in this thing? And why did I stay so long and all this kind of stuff. And then we go through this whole justification, blame, victim, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I kind of stepped back and without all the sadness and the grief, and that's what therapy helped me through, and really telling my story, to my therapist. Like, I can't tell you how many times I went through and told her stuff that had happened to me, and then stuff would pop up. And, I had to go to therapy because I knew I had a court case coming, and I couldn't stand in front of the judge and let him be my therapist, kind of thing. And writing stuff in court documents was a part of my telling my story and that kind of stuff. But when I really was able to step back and take a look at, like, how did I participate in this, I was really able to take ownership of my journey. And that became very healing for me, because I wasn't a victim anymore. And they weren't the big bad wolf. I mean, they still are the big bad wolves. I mean, they did things to me, but it wasn't like they were the boogeyman anymore. I was able to look at, like, yes, I made that decision. I made that decision. I made that decision. And I was able to take a look at, you don't have to make those decisions in your life anymore, because you've grown from this experience and you can move on from this experience. and you're wiser now because you experienced this thing. So you don't any longer have to make these decisions because you've learned from them, and you can move on. But I couldn't stay in that blame, victim, self-blame cycle anymore, because I just kept dragging myself down into that. And so once I stepped back, I was able to look at, and I never had a therapist say, well, how did you participate in this? I think I would have punched her at that point. Like, what do you mean? How did I participate in that? And so, you know, it's just a suggestion that if you're at a place where you can step back and really take a look at, you know, like, you know, what are the decisions that I made along the way to stay in this, that it can be more empowering for you in regards to helping you heal from what you did experience. And it doesn't take away what they did to you, because there are things that happen that, you know, we weren't strong enough to take a look at it, because there were a lot of lies and a lot of deceptions. Like I said, it's not like you walked in and they said, oh, we do this and we do this and we do this. There wasn't full disclosure. And there was in organizations like like cults and MLMs, there's a group lie that takes place. You know, it's harder to see when a whole group of people are lying to you than if in a one-on-one relationship. And even those are hard to see in regards to that.
I like the way when we were talking about this, like preparing for this live stream, when you said that about the participation, because for me, that helped give me language, because I don't like the narrative of I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have gone through it. To me, that just enrages me. It's the same stuff that I had to put up with, the same toxic positivity, being happy and grateful for everything that I was in MLM, and it didn't adequately express what my experience was. And I'm like, I know when I was talking to you, I've been in that. I've been in the blame, the self-blame, the victim. That's why I use the word survivor, you know, to break from that, like empower myself and help him, like, and encourage others to empower themselves. But like using that word participation, for me, it was really good to look back and I can see where I was controlled. So it's not like I'm at fault in the other way of saying, I'm so happy and grateful that this happened to me. I'm not happy and grateful for the abuse. I regret everything. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't experience anything. And I find like coming out of my experience that I haven't heard other people say that. It's like, no, you should feel grateful. That's what I feel. And it might just be my own, like I'm making that shit up, you know, but I really like that word participation, because to me, I find it quite empowering. So anybody that's on here, you know, if you're leaving a multi-level marketing company and you're starting to just deprogram, figure stuff out, it takes time. And I know for me, I just couldn't believe the shit I couldn't see. And I had video evidence of myself acting in this way. And I'm only out 2 years, and I've gone through a lot of, I like Susan, this is before I even knew Susan. When I was speaking out, I thought I had it figured out because I'd left, and I'd woken up and I'd left. And I didn't. It's as the layers started to peel back about just how big this was, it really affected me. So much so that I'm like, I can't even fucking handle this. I need to get help. And so in the same vein as what you did, Susan, wasn't preparing for a court case, but I'm like, I need to get strong in order to speak out, because this was beyond my experience. And so then that's when I contacted a psychologist, because I'm like, if I'm going to speak out, I need to get strong. And this time I'm going to invest in myself the right way. So I just wanted to add that too there.
Yeah. 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 If I had to somebody asked me that, if you had to do it all over again, would you have joined NXIVM? I'm like, like, no. But the thing is it's kind of like I don't know if there's a movie out there, it's called Sliding Doors. You know, it's like, it kind of shows a movie from different points. Like if you slid this door and went through that, this kind of stuff would happen in your life. And if you slid the door and went through that, this kind of stuff would happen in your life. We never know the outcome, you know, like, You know, like if I went to got together with so and so, you know, this is how my life would. We can't go back and slide the door and not walk through that. You know, like, oh, if I would have never joined NXIVM, my life would be like blah blah. You know, unicorns and rainbows and, you know, fairy kisses. You know, we don't know that. You know, but the thing is I did join, and those things did happen to me. But you know, I think when bad shit happens to us, you know, we might as well like explore the lessons that I learned instead of being a victim to that. Like, oh, you know, and because, you know, nobody held a gun to my head and said, oh, you will join this cult, you know, and you're going to stay there for 9 years and you're going to, you know, you're going to experience all this stuff. I wasn't like a prisoner of war, you know, and held captive in there, you know, and so, you know, I wasn't, even though I had a master's degree, in psychology, I wasn't aware of though. And I was in the military for, for 10 years, you know, prior to that. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that those kind of, it's like, I didn't understand that those kind of techniques were being used on me, you know? And so, because it's such a slow, subtle drip. You know, it's not like they, you know, like, here, drink the Kool-Aid. And like when I walked in, it was called executive success programs when I went, you know, and it
This is
was,
a question that it's kind of segueing into what you're
yeah.
talking. What was the
Yeah,
selling
it was
point?
called executive success programs, and it was a 16-day training program. And it was, you know, hey, do you want to be more successful at what you do, you know, or what you want to do, you know? So people went because they wanted to be better at athletics and stuff like that, you know? And so I went because I, you know, at a small wellness center and I wanted to improve it, you know, and I was looking for a training program that might allow me to work with more people in a group setting, you know, because I had a master's degree in psychology and I also had I had a, a degree in advanced body work. And so I worked on people who had been injured in car accidents, but I also worked on people who had been victims of sexual assault and that kind of stuff. And so I did body mind work and that kind of stuff. And so, but I was looking for something that I could work in more of a group dynamic kind of thing and expand my wellness center. So, you know, it was, for me, it was all about healing, you know, and I heard about it. I went to the second 16-day training NXIVM or ES executive success programs ever offered. And when I walked in the door, you know, they weren't burning incense and chanting and wearing white robes or any of that kind of stuff. Everybody was in a business suit, for Christ's sakes. You know, it looked like any typical business seminar that you would go to. Was, you know, it wasn't cultish at all. You know, if it would have been like, you know, doing the little chants and the drumming and shit like that, I would have been like, this is not for me, you know, kind of thing. And so, you know, and then later other stuff was happening, but it happened, you know, like, you know, how do you cook a frog? You know, you put it in tepid water and you slowly turn up the temperature so the frog doesn't hop out of the pot. That's how do you get somebody involved in a cult? You know, you put it in tepid water and you just turn up the mind control slowly. You know, you don't throw them into, you don't put them in the fire hose of cult, you know, oh, we're going to do this to you. We're going to brainwash you. And then we're going to cut you off from your family and that kind of stuff, you know, that you don't do that. Yeah. So, although I think some cults try to do that, but somebody had said earlier, yeah, it was crypto Ponzi scheme adventure. He says, I believe a lot of people are incredibly lonely and they just want to be a part of a community. You know, I think later on people came into NXIVM because when it switched over to NXIVM, because they started this thing about, we want to make the world a better place to live. And we have the tools to do that. And then I started looking around, and it's like, you guys aren't doing anything to make the world a better place to live. Like, what happened to, where's this mission? You want to make the world a better place to live. They were actually doing stuff to, like one guy came up from Mexico, is a really great singer. And he sang Frank Sinatra kind of songs, and he wanted to be a better singer. And he was just like working on, he was an IT person. He became an IT person for people who came in from into Albany, and I kept saying, why aren't you working on your singing? Oh, it's, like, doesn't help the world be a better place to live. And I'm like, yeah. And when Mark Vicente came in, the filmmaker guy, he wanted to make movies, and all of a sudden he's just making movies for NXIVM. He's on the film crew for NXIVM. And I'm like, what happened to your movie goals? Or Claire Brofman, she wanted to be an equestrian. She was working to go to the Olympics. And all of a sudden, all she's doing is funding money to NXIVM, because riding ponies was not going to make the world a better place to live. And I'm like, what the hell's going on with these people? It's like, but that's how subtle things happen, and, I don't know if I don't think MLMs work quite that way, because they want to keep you in the hopper of feeding more people in, that kind of thing. And so, I think that that's what, the cultish part of it is they try to mind control you into what they think you want to do. And then if it doesn't fit into their purpose, then what they do is they try to mind control you into like, no, you can't be in diapers the rest of your life. You have to do, you have to do this kind of thing. And so the last slide goes to trauma responses. And I didn't come up with the trauma responses, but this is on I think this is on my website. And if it isn't, I'll put it up there for you guys to be able to take down. So I'm sure you guys have heard, if you haven't heard about trauma responses, it's really good to get to know what your trauma responses are, and then come up with tools of how to work through these, because it took me a long time to work through. Like, my main trauma response was fight. Like, I am a fighter. Like, if you trigger me, I would fight you, which is not a way to be, not a way to be in the world by any stretch of the imagination. So what I would do is, like, if I felt threatened, is I would fight. A lot of people will freeze. Some people will fawn, that kind of thing, or they would run. You just, like, emotionally or physically leave the situation, that kind of thing. And so it's really good to get to, like, I can feel a fight coming on in my gut. I know the visceral response of that. And so, like, when I first left NXIVM, I would, if I felt painted into a corner emotionally, I was like a friggin' Wolverine, and I would like go into, like, like, my poor partner. Sometimes she would just call my sister, and she'd say, she's having a response, you need to come down and help me calm her down, because I would be, I was just like I was a Wolverine. Like, one time I was at my sister's house, and my brother-in-law called me stupid for getting into a cult. And, oh my God, it took everything in me to not punch him, but I verbally attacked him, because I already felt stupid enough about getting into a cult. I didn't need his feedback. Thank you very much. But my sister actually had to come between me and him, because I was going to deck him, and the poor guy already has a brain injury. so, but I was just, because it's like, those were fighting words kind of thing. It's not funny. I mean, it wasn't funny then, but I find it kind of funny now that I was such a Wolverine. I was like, rah! Kind of thing. But it's really important that, because these are things that are ways that we protect ourselves, and we don't know how we just don't know. We don't know how to be any other way in the world, but they limit us. in regards to that. So I had to find ways to, besides going on, strong drugs, which I didn't, but I had to find ways to, so I had to work some of these things out with my therapist and journal about them and things like that. But like, I know the beginning of that trauma response where I feel it in my gut, and I'll be like, oh, you need to excuse yourself from the room. I don't go into fight that bad now. And I could be like, okay, you're getting angry. So like, what's the worst thing that's going on? What's going on around you and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'll have to look around the room like, oh, that's a light and that's your male. And, and kind of bring myself out of my physical body and start to like associate with stuff in the room. That's a plant, those are your curtains. And so I can start to calm myself down around what's, and then like sometimes I'll say, I can't talk about this anymore. Things that trigger me that badly around that. And so, but those are really good things to do around what your trauma responses are in regards to that, because can be really, really limiting, but these are things that hook us into areas where we've been abused in the past. And some of these things don't just come from the cult. Some of these things come to, other places where I've experienced abuse in my past and stuff like that. But mostly my favorite one to go to was the fight, because, I think I just came into the world that way. I was the one who, my sister was she was she would leave. Like when we got mad at my mom, I would fight. My sister would flight or freeze if she couldn't leave the conversation with my mom. She would freeze and then leave, and I would be the fighter, and she'd be like, then afterwards, like if I took the paddling, which wasn't much of a paddling, but then my sister would be like, if you just kept your mouth shut, you wouldn't get a whipping. Kind of thing. But I just couldn't keep my mouth shut, which probably saved me in NXIVM, because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I asked a lot of questions that were appropriate to ask, but I shouldn't ask them because they were the authorities. So I think we can, that's the end of my slides. So I think what we can do is we can just open it up to questions and comments and stuff.
So that presentation was awesome. Thank you so much for putting it together. This is going to be it's going to stand as a great resource for people exiting, for people who are healing. So thank you so much for putting that together. And there's so many good comments. This is, I wanted to pull up this one first from Differently Normal. People can be shitty about parental abuse. I get a lot of, she loves you and she was doing her best. Nobody has ever said, oh, wow, your mother abused you. Would you do it again to me? It's true. It's like these things are so filled with like nuance, and I like when when it's turned on its head like this. Like something that really irritates me is people that quote P.T. Barnum like a sucker is born every minute. It's like attributed to P.T. Barnum, because that's like what predators say to justify exploiting people. Like why is that held up as like this amazing wisdom? Well, a sucker is born every minute. It's like, no, that's not okay.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I love the title, Differently Normal. That's great. I love that. Yeah. And I think people can be horrible about parental abuse. So, yeah. So,
do you see another comment you would like me to pull up?
No, I was just reading through that.
Okay. Here, I'll pull it up again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep clicking. I'm the happy clicker.
Yeah.
Clicking on and on.
Yeah. So I guess I'm not really sure if I understand that. So are you talking about that they're trying to like blow off that your mother abused you and saying that she did that because she loved you? Or are you talking about, am I understanding that correctly? Or are you talking about that? That's the way I'm understanding it, that you're talking about the fact that you were abused as a child and that she that she did it because they're blowing it off, saying, well, she did that because she loved you.
If you'd like to respond differently, Norma, I'll pull up your response if you'd like to just elaborate on that. This is a question from Marie. She's question, feel free to skip if inappropriate. Is it a name for when your natural trauma response is fight, but you don't have the energy to fight, but your mind still is in fight, but no physical release?
Yeah, I think if you're usually it's when you're fighting, you're in fight. So I think if you feel like you want to fight but you're not fighting, then it wouldn't be the fight. Let's pull that slide back up. Can we pull that slide up? Yeah. Then what I would think is that what you're doing is either freezing or you're flighting. So fight, usually when fight happens, you're usually actually fighting. But if you feel like fighting and you're not fighting, you're either freezing. So you're shutting down that fight thing, or that you're actually flighting. So usually when when you have the trauma response to fight, you're actually doing something with that. You're either like fighting verbally, or sometimes it could end up in a physical altercation kind of thing. So, or you go and you do something, like you stay busy or something like that. So I'm not sure what you're doing in regards to that response, kind of thing. Like cleaning the house viciously, or that kind of thing. You have to do something with that energy. So I mean, you might have that fight response, but if you're not doing anything with it, you don't have the energy to do anything with that, then you're freezing and you're shutting down.
So Susan, is this like you can have all kinds of these responses? It's not just like categorized to one, or like if you have like a dominant trauma response, you can kind of like cycle through these. Is that right?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Differently Normal has come here with this. It's more that people excuse the abuse because she loves me and tried.
Yeah. A lot of times people will do that, because they don't want to think of that person as an abuser, so, or they don't want to think that parents would abuse their children, that kind of thing. So what they do is they try to excuse the abuse away. Like, oh, she only did that because she loved you, that kind of thing. It's like, it's like they're uncomfortable talking about abuse. So what they do is they try to, well, they did it for your own good. My mom used to say something every once in a while, like, if you're going to cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about, which used to scare me, because it's kind of like, wow, you just really whipped me really hard, or, you slapped me, and now you're going to give me something to cry about. Like, that wasn't enough, kind of thing. And so,
I wanted, I just wanted to say about Marie too. I know that there's going to be other people that are feeling very similar to what you're feeling. And I know that you'd said earlier too, that it's been really helpful to chat, during these live streams and like on other people's content too. So thank you, because it's just such a weird experience that we have. And it's like trying to find the language to like, how do we name this stuff? How it's like feeling confused and like fighting and having no energy at the same time. So thank you for putting that question in there. There's another one here from Julie that says, question, do you think the women in NXIVM who got women for Keith were just under more coercive control because of their particular relationship with Keith? Or do you think there is something else?
Yeah, I think the women who actually went out and what I would call pimped for Keith, were had been with him for an extremely long time, until DOS happened. And DOS happened, and it started happening in 2015. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but let me talk about the women that pimped for him originally. What would happen is Keith would he would find a woman and say, I am attracted to her. And there were just a couple. And then what they would do is that there was a setup. And so what they would do is they would go to to these women and say, Keith would like to meet with you. And I found all this out when I was leaving, because of the way we met with I met with the other 8 women, and they would say, Keith would like to meet with you, and because he's very lonely, and because he's the Vanguard, that and Vanguard met the conceptual founder of the organization. And but if you were to have any kind of relationship with him, just, kind of casual, you can't talk about it because he is the Vanguard. And so you need to keep that relationship quiet, because other people will be jealous, that kind of thing. And so then what they would do is set up a meeting to meet with Keith. And then Keith would take it from there. And then it was kind of just at first, kind of just a meeting, blah, blah, blah. They would talk and stuff like that. And then eventually it would move into the seduction kind of thing. And then Keith would say, if we're ever going to sleep with each other, that has to really remain quiet because, of my position in the company. And so the women would always think that he was monogamous because of, that's the way people started to betray him and stuff. And so and then when they would find out that he wasn't monogamous, and if they had a reaction to that, then they would send in the women of the wolf pack to do explorations of meaning with them, which is NXIVM's way of doing mind control. And so then what they would do is they would say, well, why do you need him to be monogamous? It's how is that any different than if he's playing tennis with somebody? Because, he could play tennis with somebody else. If he was playing tennis with you, how does that take anything away from you and stuff like that? And isn't this your limiting belief and stuff like that? And so it started out with that. And then as Keith went along, he would up his ante. He got his narcissistic jollies out of doing something else. And then he started DOS. And when he started DOS, he picked Allison Mack to be the head of DOS. And then it was a pyramid scheme. He started Allison Mack to be the head of DOS. And then he had women below. She was the master slave. And then she had slaves below her. I think there was like 6 or 8. And then, what they would do is they would go out and collect collateral on women. And this is what made it a RICO organization. And so they had nude pictures, mortgages, bank accounts, letters, and the letters could be true or false, that kind of thing. Like, my brother-in-law beat his kids, it didn't have to be true. And so these were collateral things that if you ever told anybody about DOS, then your collateral would be released. Like he would take ownership of your mortgage, and get your house, not your mortgage, but your deed to your house, that kind of thing, your bank account, blah, blah, blah. And he would have these nude photos of you, especially close-ups of your private part, and he would release that kind of stuff. And so, and then what he had to do is he never had to, and then he would do assignments of seducing him, sleeping with him, those kinds of things, because he already had all this other collateral, right? So he would send Allison Mack or his frontline slaves out and say, you need to recruit these many slaves. And then when he had collateral on them, he would say, you need to get your slave to come and do a seduction exercise with me. And then you need to get them to sleep with me, kind of thing. And so once that started to get out, then people started to, some people started to go like, what the heck, and it got out into the public. And then the DOJ finally stepped in. He was branding them, with his initials. And then that finally got out and then into the public. And then the DOJ found out about it. And then they did an investigation, and then they arrested people. And then it turned into a big RICO organization kind of thing. And they busted him and others for all these crimes and stuff. And so So but his whole thing is that there was this big lie about he was monogamous, and then when people would find out, they would either break up with him and leave the organization, and then the organization would lie, and I'd be like, "Oh, what happened to so and so?" "Oh, she left and she stole from us," and and I'd be like, "Stole from you guys?" "Oh yeah, we gave her $50,000 for such and such, and she left and she didn't pay us back," and I'd be like, that doesn't seem right, that kind of thing. But you would never, hear from so and so again. So it would be hard to figure that kind of stuff out. Or, oh yeah, she worked in the accounting office and she lost $1 million of our money. And I'd be like, what? you know. But if you ever tried to check in with so and so, that person wouldn't get back to you, because they probably threatened her with a lawsuit or something like that. And so yeah, when I knew eventually that Keith would probably step over the line in some way that the DOJ would say no more, because I knew about the money laundering and stuff, and I and myself, 2 other people knew about a lot of crimes that they were committing, and we tried to get the authorities involved. And we had in 2012, we had the New York State Attorney General contacting us, and we thought that they for sure they were going to take them down. And they asked us to send information to them, and I had to go to my judge because I was being sued, and I had to do a thing called in camera, and in cameras where only the judge and I know about it. And the state attorney general had to subpoena me, and I had to take that subpoena to the judge so NXIVM didn't know what was happening, and to be able to release this information that I had. And we thought for sure that the attorney general was going to go in on tax evasion and money laundering and this cash that was coming across the border from Mexico. And then all of a sudden they said, don't send us any more information. We have enough. And we thought for sure they were going to, go in and raid, the complex and raid the Keith's house and Nancy's house and stuff. And nothing ever happened. We just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. Like, what the, when's this going to happen? And nothing happened. And so it didn't have, like, DOS would have never had to happen if the state of New York would have done their jobs. And nothing happened. And so DOS happened. And then finally the feds woke up and said, that they were going to take them on. And so, but, you kind of have to go good news, bad news, because Keith would have never got sentenced to 120 years in prison over the charges that we knew about. So. Yeah. Monica says, I hope he rots in jail. So
this is a really good question from Brandy Lee. It took me a long time and a great therapist to realize that my most dominant trauma response is fawn. I try to talk my way out of perceived trouble. Why is this response so stigmatized?
Can you put the question back up?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. I'll leave it up.
Yeah. 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 I don't think it's that uncommon. I mean, I've met a lot of people over the years that they do fawn. And so I don't think that I mean, I don't know who's stigmatizing it, if it's you that feels that way. And I think that it's not that common to, I mean, I think it's called cognitive dissonance, when we don't want to see things that are happening right in front of us. So anybody who's been in a cult or an MLM or an abusive relationship, any of that kind of stuff, the signs are definitely there that stuff is happening. But what we do is we kind of we have our blinders on. It's like we don't want to see any of that shit happening in front of us. And so what we do is we don't allow ourselves to see that trouble is there. And so I think everybody on this live stream that has ever been in any of this kind of situation has done that we see it and then we lie to ourselves that that stuff is there. So you're not the only one that has that, and even all of those years that I fought against them for what they were doing, it's like, I would ask the questions. I would get get the shit beat out of me emotionally for asking those questions. And then I would just like go like, oh, okay, And my thing was, is that I was so far in debt. I was trying to buy back the dollar by trying to earn enough money to buy myself out of the trouble, the financial trouble I was in. And so, we're taught that from a young age to, um, by most of our parents, and our parents learned it from their parents, and their parents learned it from their parents, is to ignore the elephant in the room. And so we a lot of times when we see that there's troubles in the waters, we're just taught to ignore that. And so, and again, it's that thing where if we start to look at how we participate in the things that we participate, then um, we learn to be more inquisitive about what we're involved in and pay more attention to what's going on in our gut. Like, is this something that I should be involved in? Is this something I should purchase? Especially if it comes to, like, if it's a pair of socks, it's like not that big of a deal. But if I'm spending, $500 on something because I think I need that thing, is this something I really should be involved in? If I'm forming a new relationship, I'm not talking about, well, definitely with a partner, but if I'm forming a new relationship with a friend, is this somebody I really want to spend time with? Those kinds of things, instead of using that cognitive dissonance, like, wow, that person just treated that wait staff really, really poorly. And now they did it again. And now they did it again, and if they're talking really bad about this person behind their back and not confronting them, are they going to do that with me? That kind of stuff. So starting to pay attention to those kinds of things. And the way that we do that is we take a look at how we participated in things in the past and take those lessons and we bring those lessons into our present. And so I don't think that fawning is necessarily something that we should stigmatize ourselves over or other people over, because I think it's something that we all do.
You know what I
Periodic.
wonder? I wonder if it's like or like it's people judging that are still kind of like the MLM residual of like it's like, okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Because we all do these, like, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, we all do these, because I know I've done all these things. I've done the freezing, the fawning, I've done all of this, right? And I believe that I fight a lot. Like, that's kind of like what I do. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like super defensive. But I think that it's almost like hustle culture. Like, oh, I'm a fighter. I'm like cooler. If you're trying to like talk your way out of it, that's kind of weaker. I wonder if that can be the perception. I don't know. I'm just trying to, because that kind of makes sense to me. Like what people could be judging. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's my 2 cents for you.
Well, I think all of those can be done as a protection. And then all of those have limitations. All of them can be stigmatized. Fighting is not a good way to be.
No.
Fawning is not necessarily a good way to be. There's a balance to all of them in regards to that. Sometimes freezing and just listening to the conversation is good, because then you can take in more information, that kind of thing. Sometimes leaving a conversation is best, that kind of thing. So I think it's knowing when to do each of them is a good idea. But making ourselves wrong for doing any of them is, then I'm just self-blaming myself for them, for doing something that has come natural for me to survive in the environment that I've been in. There's a reason why I fought. There's a reason why I fawned. There's a reason why I, that kind of stuff. But it's taking a look at where is it limiting me in being an effective person in the world. That's that's the important thing. And so I hope that answers your question for you.
Let's see here. Sam was sharing something there. Thank you very much, Sam. I'm not going to pull that up just because it's unless you want me to, let me know. But
Yeah,
it's sharing some personal things in here. These comments are very good. Thank you so much. I'm going to scroll back and see if you see something that you'd like to address, Susan. I'm going to scroll back and see if I've probably missed. I apologize if I've missed comments before. Oh, here we go. Brandy. There, Brandy. My mama raised my brother and I as a single mom in the military, and a lot of my childhood felt scary and unsafe. I think I'm ashamed because others see it as not taking accountability for my actions.
yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that I think it's, well, one, being a single mom in the military is difficult. And I think that as a child, I think that um feeling scary and unsafe in any kind of situation is a difficult place to be. But feeling ashamed um over feeling scary and unsafe because of your childhood is something that, again, that's where looking back, I mean, obviously you were a child, and adults going back and taking a look at participation this is where that doesn't really fit in, because you were a child, and it's your parents' responsibility to take care of you the best that they can. But you know as far as, I mean, I don't know what your mom's role in the military was, if she got deployed and those kinds of things, but I know, being in the military as a single mom, it was her responsibility to find somebody safe to take care of you if she was deployed and stuff like that. So, but the fact that you feel ashamed for not taking accountability for your actions, I mean, I don't really know enough about that to really really take actions as a kid. I mean, actions as an adult, those kinds of things. I don't know enough about that to really respond to that. But I mean, I think we can all look back into our past and have feelings about our actions in regards to that. But the feeling ashamed for not taking accountability for our actions, the feeling of ashamed is valid, but the thing is that how do you move forward in regards to that? Because I don't want to invalidate what you're feeling, but the thing is that how do you work through that? How do you work through that in regards to your past is the question. So I don't know if you're in therapy, Brandy, and if you're not, it might be good to take a look at how do you get into therapy to work through that in regards to um, those past feelings. You've talked about your mom being abusive and those kinds of things, but it sounds like it might be good for you to take a look at working with a therapist in regards to that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and dipping into our past and how does that affect you in the present is those are fruitful things to take a look at in regards to that. Yeah, because Sam here said I had a horrific childhood, so much that I spent years in therapy. Yeah.
And Sam gave
And
me permission to share this like further on, said you can share it if you want to. So because you started reading it, I pulled it up. So there you go. That's
yeah. Yeah.
I would like to learn more about this model because it really I've had some experiences since after like leaving Rank Makers, leaving Mon8 and speaking out that really took me off guard, and I could have destroyed friendships because of my trauma response. I didn't realize it at the time. And it was because I was so when I first began speaking out, I'm like, fuck, everybody needs to know. And I'm like, I knew that I was going to get a lot of pushback, and I did, like lots on social media. So every time I'd get on like my phone, I'd be like, I'd give it the middle finger just to like get myself in the state of going to war, because it was really like that. So of course, as you can imagine, I'm like, anytime something is going to happen now, I'm like super sensitive. And I didn't realize, like I was blind. Like it really blindsided me. There was like an incident that happened, and I could have lost friendships over it. And thank God, like we just are, talking, and like the friendships are solid enough for like, I don't want a fucking cult to come between us. But that's why I want to learn more about that, because I had been through therapy. It's not like I'm perfectly healed, but I thought I had my poop in a group. But this really caught me off guard, and so some of the things that I do now are when I start to feel like personally affected, like like I'm being emotionally affected by somebody else or another event where I don't feel that kind of like disinterested detachment. That's where I'm like just kind of looking around, and it doesn't really affect me. If I start to feel myself getting drawn in, to me, that's now a sign that I need to like put my phone down, take some time off, and just like be in nature. That's something that I've been able to see. But Crypto Avenger says, note to self, don't piss off Julie. Oh, here we go. Brandy is saying something. They're having a conversation. Marie, thank you. I do have an amazing therapist, and I've been working through a whole bunch of things, including complicated grief, generational trauma, and PTSD. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all this stuff, Brandy.
Yeah. That's really good to hear. So, yeah. And Sam said that we can, if we want, to share her.
Okay. All right. I had a horrific childhood, so much so that I spent years in therapy and took one person I'm related to court for SA as a child when I was in my 20s. Wow.
That's great.
That's incredible. Holy shit, Sam. Whew.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And so, and I hope you had a good result doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jen and Two Cats said that she gets what she's saying. She feels her childhood affected her adult life, and that attributing behaviors of past trauma is not taking responsibility for her behaviors. Yeah, I'm not sure if. Yeah, I didn't want to presuppose that that's what Brandy meant. But yeah, definitely, our childhood is going to affect our present adult life until we work through those things. I mean, that's very common, in regards to that, if that's what Brandy was talking about. And so, yeah,
I think it's really nice to be able just to talk, and just to know that we might not understand somebody's perspective fully, but that if we listen and we have empathy and we're just trying to be mindful of our own shit that might get in the way, that we can work through these things, just having these conversations, because especially coming out of like MLM or high demand groups, high control groups, everything is it still is black and white. Like it kind of hangs over you. I know for me, when I would like be still judging people. Like I remember I first got out, I would look at some like other anti-MLM creators. I'm like, oh, well, you're too judgmental. Like, I'm the one that's being judgmental. And it fades, but it's like all this shit that you have to work through, you know? So I really like that, you know, just having everybody on here with your comments and working through things and having the courage even just to put this out here publicly for other people. Like it's really important. And I want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Sam says they're on the sex offender register for life. There you
That's
go.
great.
That's what you did. Good.
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage to, you know, to do that, you know, take them to court and then have that outcome in regards to that.
Oh,
So
Starla Marie is just asking for some clarification. At the beginning, about 8 to 12 minutes into this live, it was said that the difference between pyramid scheme and MLM is the product, when in fact, it's the recruitment model, the real money maker, and the product is a legal loophole. So I'm confused on why that was said.
well, that's how the FTC determines the difference between that. But I did use a disclaimer that in a lot of MLMs, what they're really going for is to recruit people, and the product is just a byproduct. So what they're doing is that how they get around that loophole is that what they do is they sell, you know, a starter pack and a medium pack and a large pack. Like if you want a really big business, then sign up for the, you know, $1,200 pack, and it comes with all this product, you know, and then you make commissions off the product that's sold out of that pack. And then, but really what they're doing is you can't build a successful MLM business without enrolling multiple people. And you want to build it so that you have people right below you, and then those people have people below them, and those people have people below them. And so really what you are doing is you're building a pyramid below you, and then you want people to build a pyramid below them, and you want people to build a pyramid below them. And that's what the 1% have really been successful at, is they build a pyramid of people below them. And that's how they build that walkaway residual income. And so they're not the people that are really successful at network marketing aren't interested in selling products. They're interested in enrolling people that will enroll people that will enroll people. And so they're not interested in having a little storefront in their garage where Betty comes over and picks up her weekly shampoo and her, you know, her monthly soap and her, you know, her scrub bubbles and stuff like that. That's not what they're selling. The people that are truly successful at the top of the MLM pyramid, they're interested in enrolling people who enroll people who enroll people, enroll people. And they get around that by selling the starter packs. That's what they do.
And this is so good because you know what? Like, how awesome is this that there are people now out there, like, and watching this and being like, wait a second, like noticing this, it's a pyramid scheme and like the MLM is the product when in fact it's the recruitment. So good for you for critically thinking and asking for clarification, because that's what this is about.
Yeah, she said she missed the middle part. She was driving. Yeah. So,
Pretty
yeah, and
much.
you can always come back to the live stream and watch it once it's posted up on YouTube, and it'll have the slides and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, the slides are good. Susan made a kick-ass job doing this. Julie says to Sam, brave as fuck. I can't imagine. I hope therapy helped a ton. I had SA as a kid, and therapy saved me for sure. I don't know where I'd be without it. Sending love. And then Julie says to me, the anger, wicked humor you show to like Ray, rank makers, etc., helped me a ton to deal with the aftershocks of things I dealt with working. Thank you. GDGM says, does she provide any service pro bono?
who's that? Who's she asking?
I think you. Nobody's gonna be asking me for anything. I'll tell you that.
I don't know. Maybe she wants to come kick some ass for her. Yeah, all my work's pro bono except my DJ work. So yeah, you can reach out to me on my website.
And I put that in the description too.
Right.
Doris says, I know my vulnerable state and gratification of getting material items led me into my MLM. I always wondered what made me different from the people who said no to joining. I wish I was that strong.
Yeah. Somebody said good night. Oh, I think it was Sam said, I'm
Oh,
going to have to say good night.
good
Okay.
night.
Good night, Sam. I
Night,
don't blame
Sam.
you. It's after 2 a.m.
Oh my
Yeah, we're not
goodness.
going to go much longer because we're going to do, we'll do another part here
Yeah.
sometime. We haven't decided on a date yet, but we'll keep you tuned in.
Yeah. Oh, here, Crypto Ponzi Scheme Avenger says, we have busted a scam by We Are All Satoshi called Boomerang. They call their product, they don't care that we've busted it because they're still getting commissions. Wow. Good
Wow.
word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Final thoughts, Susan?
Yeah. Gosh, thank you guys all so much for coming and spending time with us. So, yeah, if you have any thoughts about what you would like us to talk about next time, I mean, we have an idea, we have kind of an outline. But if you have any thoughts about what you would like us to talk about, we're going to keep kind of the same thing, the same topic. You can send them to Judy, Julie, or you can send me a quick note on my website. There's a little place where a little icon will come up, and you can send me what you would like us to talk about. So
People are this is awesome. People are making references to potatoes and truck nuts. That's so awesome. Right on. So good. And Doris, I wanted to just acknowledge your comment as well. Where you feel it's like, I wish I was that strong, but it's, we are all strong in our lives, but it has nothing to do with the strength, because you got out, like your strength got you out, and it was just, you can be tricked. You can be super strong and then you can like trip or like stub your toe and hurt your toe, and but we were fooled and we were recruited and we were targeted, and it's good. I think of like identifying things about like what Susan was mentioning, if this happens to work for you, about that participation, being like, I wanted to, getting material items, and you knew you were vulnerable, but that's not like your fault. That's just like identifying what you were doing in there, the participation part of it. I hope that, I don't know. Because you are strong. You got out, you got the fuck out, and you're commenting on this video, which shows that you're strong, because that puts a target on you. You're a hater if you're commenting here. All right. And
right.
yeah. All right. And Grizzly says, thank you both. This is the best. Keep making these to help people. And congratulations again on getting out, waking up and getting out. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's the first big step. And a lot of people have been in therapy for a while. And a lot of people are working, to help take this stuff down. And the thing that's important is that you don't have to do that, and I want people to hear that, because you don't have to be on the battlefield. You already were on a battlefield, and so getting out is the most important thing, and taking care of yourself. So
yeah. And like Monica wraps it up, we are all part of the high altitude potato. I want to say thank you to every single person on here that was watching it. Maybe you didn't leave a comment, and that's totally okay. I'm still feeling my way through this. And I appreciate all of you that have left comments and have engaged in this. And thank you so much, Susan, for putting together this PowerPoint, for answering questions, for sharing your insights, and just modeling good behavior. A lot of times you can take in information, but then it's just like how people are behaving. That is the real lesson, so thank you.
Oh, well, thanks for being my friend, and thanks for having me.
All right. Shall we say goodbye?
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Until next time. Bye.